Hi, friends. I'm Scott Giles, and welcome to Power Talk, my podcast here on Facebook Live and YouTube. I cover topics related to hypno-coaching, the hypnotic arts and sciences generally, and spirituality. If you would like to know more about my professional work, check out my website, which I'll tag at the end of this video. Today, I want to talk about dealing with fools. Now, that may sound harsh, but hear me out. The other day, I saw a video on Facebook of some fellow who completely lost his self-control at the airport. He was mad at being told he had to wear a mask during the pandemic, and his response was to become violent. He stalked around, pushed airport personnel, picked up a line stand post and swung it like a baseball bat. He almost hit someone. He was arrested and led away in handcuffs, and he was lucky, in my opinion, that airport security treated him as gently as they did. My response was, "What a fool! What did he think was going to happen? Did he really think he could be violent in a public place and just get away with it?" The moral of watching that video is that there are foolish people everywhere, and you never know where one is going to turn up. Now, the usual definition of a fool is someone who lacks judgment or sense and who acts in a way contrary to their own long-term interests. Scripture actually has a lot to say about such people. We read in 2 Corinthians 11, "Suffer fools gladly, for you yourself are wise." Now, that's a puzzling verse, but the meaning isn't to be happy that you're surrounded by fools. The meaning is learn to tolerate their existence with a sense of inevitability because they're everywhere. And wise people will figure out how to deal with them. In the Old Testament, in the book of Proverbs, people are divided into two big classes, the wise and the foolish. And there are very clear hallmarks that call out how to recognize the fool. They're not trustworthy. Proverbs 3 verse 35. The wise will inherit honor, but fools display dishonor. They lie and slander. Proverbs 10:18. They who conceal hatred have lying lips, and they who spread slander are fools. They don't listen to anyone. Proverbs 12:15. The way of the fool is right in his or her own eyes, but a wise person is one who listens to counsel. And the book of Proverbs has advice about how to deal with fools. Basically, avoid them. Proverbs 14 verse 7. Go from the presence of a foolish person when you do not perceive in him or her lips of knowledge. Now, on the whole, I think the book of Proverbs gives good advice, which is why it's one of my favorite books in the Bible. Now, I wouldn't endorse everything it recommends, and there are problems of translation. For example, in chapter 26, verse 4, answer not a fool according to his or her folly, while the very next verse says, answer a fool according to his or her folly. A seeming contradiction. Now, you can resolve it by looking at the context. You're supposed to analyze the situation. There's going to be times when there's no point in trying to correct or give guidance to a certain kind of person. As the poet Edna St. Vincent Millay wrote, feed a cold, starve a fever, never argue with a true believer. On the other hand, sometimes there is a benefit of engaging, and that can be a good strategy if you can lead a person to see the error of their ways. But telling these situations apart gets tricky, so I think we really do need a better guide. There is a writer I follow who adds some insight here. He is Robert Greene, Greene. And I strongly recommend his latest and fifth book, Mastery. What he does is he looks at historical figures and distills what about them gave them mastery over their lives. Darwin, Mozart, Henry Ford, and others. Greene writes that fools are a part of life, like rocks and furniture, he said. And high-performing people realize that and don't give these people more energy than they deserve. Now that's hard. I had to struggle with it. I want to have the approval of everyone, and so sometimes I try to take some people too seriously, more seriously than they're taking themselves, and that's a hard lesson. As Greene writes, in the course of your life, you will be continually encountering fools. There are simply too many to avoid. We can classify people as fools by the following rubric. When it comes to practical life, what should matter is getting long-term results and getting the work done in as efficient and creative a manner as possible. But fools carry with them a different scale of values. What he means by that is people who are foolish are often enslaved to their base emotions and focused on immediate gratification and short-term wins, and therefore his prescription is an excellent one. He writes, you must neutralize the harm they do by keeping a steady eye on your goals and what is important, and ignoring them if you can. The height of wisdom, however, is to take this even further and to actually exploit their foolishness, using them for material for your work as examples of things to avoid. Or, as one of my spiritual directors put it, everyone has value, but sometimes their value is that they serve as a bad example. And more than one evening, as I write my reflection in my journal, I've had to say, well, I've learned from that person what not to do. The point is you're going to encounter people who behave foolishly. And the goal is not to allow these people to bring you down or to contaminate you with their foolishness. You will always encounter them, and there will be days when there will seem to be an awful lot of them. But don't give them rent in your head. Stay focused on what is important to you. Be a person of wisdom, not a person of foolishness. Hey, thank you for your time and attention today. I'll be back next week with another talk on a different subject, and I'd like to invite you to join me. It does help if you let others know about my videos, so please like, share, and subscribe. If I can be of help to you, feel free to reach out through email, Patreon, or my website. Stay well and stay safe.